Oh, crud. I did this in 2 meetings. Dang it. I didn't mean to do that. Okay, that's cool. It's just the way it is. So this will, I'll have this, I'll have to do, I'll have to put this on the canvas in 2 meetings, but that's because I didn't hit pause, I hit stop. And we're back. And I'm hoping everybody's all set to go. I'm gonna go back to, we had, oh, you know what, I should see if everybody is back. Okay, a few people need to get back, but we're gonna go ahead and get cracking here and show the next part of this.
Project, and then have a little tapering system with it. It's a dense void.
Are you tapering to a center drain? Is that what you're doing?
Yep.
And that's in the framing.
Yep.
So I don't know, I'll try to explain this in a little bit, but this is really cool because what they've done is they've tapered the LVLs, or engineered to the point where they're big enough that they can be ripped and tapered, so that when it's sheeted, the sheeting follows the taper, and so they can be sloped to drain rather than sloping float and having to, build up a bunch of mortar to slope to a floated drain for the porch.
I was going, yeah, somebody's.
Let's see. You're gonna really help collect on water.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise you've got to trim this part down, and then you got that much flow, right?
Well, you either have to pre-float it, or a lot of guys do the tape.
Rodney, are the
and
captions
then
on?
another layer of plywood. So it's not as material. But the wall frame with this, I mean, here we've got.
Rodney, are the captions on?
Block every 2 feet.
Vertical siding, whoa.
So it's just a, make.
Okay, so I just wanted to clarify that because it's a really cool detail, and I think what you were looking at on the screen, I don't think is going to really show you what's going on, and I don't think my words are going to really show you either. So, what is going on there? Is coming out of that, that room, right? There's a bit of a step down, and you could have taken the joists for that entry deck, right? You could have taken them and you could have ripped them like that. So you could have told your water, you could have given it even an 1/8 inch fall. You could have told your water to go that way and spill off. But instead, or you could have floated it, because they've done things so cleanly and they've captured their water, and they're telling their water where to go, right? They're telling it. They're carrying it into drains, and they're daylighting it in specific places, and they're burying all their gutter drains are in the walls. This will probably be buried in a wall somewhere. But they've taken those LVLs, which are engineered to be cut out somewhat, and they've cut them like that. So they've already built in the taper, and then their sheeting, 1/2 inch sheeting, can be made to conform to that. And then all they got to do is cut a hole and set a drain body, plumb it to wherever they want to go down to daylight somewhere. That's for their entry drain. It's a pretty clean way to go. I imagine they'll tile this, but they don't have to have a giant float to get up enough to slope to drain. They've done it in the framing. It's really a cool detail. I really like it. It's a good way to do it. It's a cost-saving vehicle as well, and it really works. It sure looks like it would work.
It's a lot more cumbersome for them. But,
Yeah.
you can see they're so good and efficient, and they'll frame the wall, and they don't actually even mark their studs or their blocks when they're cutting them. They just bump it and plunge it. Bump and plunge, and the blocks just fall right into the wall just by siding it. They don't even pull out a tape or a speedy square.
Good.
Rodney, I don't see any captions. Are there
It's
captions?
so easy to watch. You just watch them bump up, and then they set.
Yeah, I'm sorry, no closed captioning available on this.
Okay, well, it's really hard for me to hear. You know, he's wearing a mask. There's a lot of noise going on. I'll try to get down as much as I can.
Okay, that's all we can ask, right? And I'll try to remember that in these subsequent videos is if we can dispense with the masks. I know it makes a big difference. And the skill saws are really annoying. So, lo siento mucho. I haven't been trained as a filmographer, but I'm learning slowly but surely.
Comes down, if they know, like, as they're sliding their back up, that one's a little long, they'll knock an 1/8 or 16th off of it, so they don't balloon out the wall when they, you know, when they block it. It's awesome.
So you've got fire blocks, this is taller than 10 feet, you got at least one run of fire blocks, and then these 4x blocks, which are called out for some reason, right? Wait, it's not.
4x blocks, so, yeah. 'cause
They're
it's
3x
a shear
blocks,
wall.
I guess, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a shear wall.
Shear wall.
These two are shear wall.
Yep.
One, two, so that's what kind of tell. And then otherwise, you see what a huge hassle. If this were horizontal siding, you could nail on your studs.
Yep.
Because it's vertical siding, you got to block, and that gives you blocking, that gives you nailing every 2 feet. So it's blind nail,
Yeah, so this is a pretty big project, and imagine, if you will, you're bidding the framing, and you don't take into account, because you're doing the framing, and you're not, and no one's mentioned it to you, and you're not doing the siding, you haven't taken into account that you've got to block every bay, at least one, looks like about 4 blocks per bay. That's probably upwards of thousands of blocks. It would be a real drag to forget that. So it's good to know and project out, you know, past the framing if you're the framer.
Yeah, it's thermarie.
What is it?
Thermarie is like an ash product,
Ooh,
and it's all pre-finished, and we just come.
TNG.
I have to double check. Some are, it's almost like a skip sheeting where you're a little bit, you can see through, so it'll be like your face now.
Which better adhesion than fixed nails, especially when you're using stainless steel nails, right?
Everything galvanized, you know, that's gonna get covered and enveloped within our building envelope, and then everything else is on the exterior stainless.
And then your clips, these clips are stainless as well?
Those are not, because they'll be covered with.
Completely covered, yeah. And those clips basically just space the sheeting, so they're not butted tight, so they don't, they have room to.
You don't need clips unless you're over a 2-foot span, or over a 16-inch bay.
Okay, so they don't even have to be there, they're just there, right?
I think they're just, they customarily put them in.
Yeah, and the clips also keep your
Sheathing
roof aligned, yeah. Yeah, it's really, those are nailers up there, that 2x22 nailers to receive the drywall lid. Will this all icing, will they put that to this? We're gonna open cell foam the whole place.
Pretty much, except for the walls.
So will also be unfaced bats?
Yeah. And we like to use the rock salt.
Huh.
It's a mineral wall,
Yeah,
and then it's fire resistant. It's 10 times better sound dampening, so you don't have as many sound issues.
How does it compare price-wise?
It falls in between icing and your, you know,
And unfaced bats?
Yeah.
Huh. Check that out. But you know, unfaced bats, like that job of mine,
Yeah.
an extra $475 insulates the interior walls. Why wouldn't you spend $475 for at least the sound value
Yeah.
of that?
Yeah, I think
Wall?
it's probably about 50% more for the, you know, rock salt, but it's mold resistant. I mean, it's just a way far superior product.
Yeah, because really, how many walls have you opened up with insulation that's just goes away? It's wet, stays wet, mold disappears. Rats seem to like to eat the paper. But this is just clean framing. Now, this place was platform frame or balloon frame. You don't have any gable-end walls, which I told you guys last week. I like to see gable-end walls, balloon frame. That's the only balloon framing we do anymore. But this would have been this job would have been balloon framed 40 years ago.
Yeah.
These walls would have been full height. That ledger would have been let in for this floor.
Exactly.
We can stop doing this. This is a way more efficient way to do it. 8-foot studs versus 16 or 20.
16, and then back then it was all 2x4 too. So
Yeah.
you steered structural integrity.
Yeah, sure. Well, yeah, not to mention straight and flat and all those other great things. And then let me ask you this, because I'm going to do a little demo.
Yeah.
How many, are the framers framing with pneumatic guns? Is anybody framing with cordless guns?
We're still all pneumatic here, and Dave, we've got a couple cordless, but there's just, especially when you see the shooters go, there's no way the cordless.
Could keep up. Have you tried one?
Yeah, I think we've got a couple on site. They work all right. They're just not the same. I don't know. They haven't caught up yet. Whereas the skill saws are right there. Like, I've got
For the cordless?
cordless skill saw, the Makita double battery is
Unbelievable. I have a cordless router, which is
so nice.
beyond belief. But you know, I'm going to do a demo Saturday. I'm gonna nail some 16s in with a framing hammer. I'm gonna set up a compressor and plug in the hose and nail some in with a pneumatic gun, and then I'm gonna take a battery operated gun. It's like, well, which would you rather do? Now, interesting thing is it's a kind of a duh no-brainer. You want the one that you don't have you don't have a hose, you don't have anything, but it hurts the hell out of my hand when I use that gun. It's way more of a jam on your hand, wrist, and bones when I use it. And then, like you said, and I didn't even think of it, it doesn't keep up.
It does, there's no way.
Okay, bam, 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 bam.
Especially when you're searing on something, you know, you just have to have those, I think.
Good to know, but I think eventually
They'll get that. I think,
compressors and hoses and all that.
but yeah, the only time we actually did hand bang some stuff is when if you have a 3x sill plate
Yeah,
here,
yeah.
they'll use 20s in hand bang.
Yeah, and there's no guns gonna take those.
No.
20 penny nails to nail your 3x plate. That's a nail from the bottom of your 3x plate into your stud.
Yep, so we didn't toenail anything on this.
Yeah.
You'll look, you know, if you go out.
But you can toenail studs in the 3x plate, right?
Yeah, you can. I think, you know, it's just a better connection. You imagine a 20 going straight up, or you've got 6
It's a way better.
nailing it.
It's a way better connection. And so this is 16 centers, double studs. Is that for? There's no HDs up here. All the HDs are down on framing,
We've
right?
got an MST strap up here,
Okay.
and we've got a couple places, you know, we landed our walls on joists, so we'll actually drill through and HD through the beam
Okay.
for our connection.
And so these doubles are for maybe for some.
And we do throughout, just standard framing, you know, we use
For any plywood break, you double up.
double up any plywood break.
So
It's just standard practice, and then stagger your sheets.
yeah, I see that too. I mean, starting. Yeah, yeah, which is crazy. I mean, it's you can see it on a roof. It's easy, but really it makes sense on walls too.
It really did, well, and I think it's good now, so you'll see like, we'll have 3x breaks, high and low, for our staggers.
Yeah.
And so I think that line up there is gonna be, you know, that's a strap line.
Huh.
Because, you know, our sheet breaks will stagger. And the only thing they messed up is you can get from in here is they didn't face this should always be faced out, I didn't catch it.
Oh.
But you should always have your trim out. So the inspector can see what you're doing.
Yep, that makes sense. So what the heck? Get in here with your cat spawn. Do you nail it? I don't think so. So this is the bathroom?
Yes. You've got a big shower niche.
I guess.
Yeah. And then we'll come back in and what we like to
So
do.
this, go ahead.
Is on these is we've got, our windows aren't, you know, typical nail on fence to the outside. They're actually set more inside the wall. So what we'll come back and do is shape another 2x6 in here with ball to build our pan. And then we set a jam extension first, waterproof up onto that jam extension, and then set our window into that.
So your exterior is gonna have kind of a built-in sill, and then
It'll have-
your windows are.
Yeah, and then the jam extensions here, you know, you wrap your waterproofing all the way up on
Yeah.
that. Caulk the outside, set the fin, and then you've got a full finished interior product as well.
And so was this called out? Is this a detail from the architect, or is this the way you guys like to do windows?
The architect called out a jam extension, but yeah, we could have just done a buffer, a block, and waterproof to that.
Right.
But we figured for efficiency's sake, you know, instead of setting 2 things, is might as well just set the jam and pull the window to it.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the window will have a dado for the drywall for tile and curtain too.
which is like we do for bullnose, is we buck the openings,
Yeah.
make them, you know, an additional 3 inches over, so there's a return for a bigger bullnose.
Exactly. So all these openings are oversized by 3 1/4 plus new space because we have inch and 5/8 on either side and out.
And so is it trimless on the inside? The wall's just wrapping to the,
The jam extension is unfinished throughout and the drywall and the drywall will have that curve.
so the drywall grounds to the jam extensions.
Yes.
Which is, and they're gonna be proud by how much?
Half inch.
Wow. You know, my house built 1930, and all my jams, windows and doors, are an 8-inch proud. And they have a plaster ground, so
Yeah.
it's lath and plaster, so they ground to it, and it's just the, you know, just radiuses and then the face.
Yeah.
It's back.
Really nice.
This is essentially that detail, only with more showing.
Exactly.
I like it. I like it a lot. It's clean as a whistle. You know what I mean? It's, and besides being clean as a whistle, you know, if you did your job right, if the framers did their job right, the guys who set the windows did their job right, it makes it, you know, the jam extension should have the same reveal all the way around. Pero, if they don't, if somebody didn't, at least you have a plane you can subscribe to, right?
Yeah.
Whereas trim on the wall, you know, if your drywall is not flush with your jam or your jam extender, then you have to do some matching. You gotta do some
Yeah, you gotta either hog it.
you gotta
out,
relieve something, right?
Yep.
To make it work, or else
or else you're way out of.
paint, make a carpenter what he ain't.
Yep.
Wait, coffee paint, make a carpenter what he ain't.
Yeah, we don't believe in bond now.
Yeah, good. I like that, and so that's nice, no post
Yeah.
there.
I believe in Bondo. Somebody asked me after to explain that.
That guy's all hung. That guy's all hung. Goodness. Seems nice detail right there. Otherwise, that might have been an opening. Post. Is that a closet or something? Or no, kitchenette? Yeah, live here.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so can we walk on the main deck?
There'll be a lot more races because it's not fully screwed out yet.
Yeah. Not, I guess, has it been plumbed in line?
Yes. Yeah, it's all plumbed in line, so, and a lot of the,
And that is a duh. That's a duh. So that comment about plumbing and lining,
fire sprinklers.
when walls are framed and stood, they're just temporarily braced and maybe tacked together. And then at one point, typically when all the walls are framed, then the job is plumb and lined. And I'm not going to explain that to you right now. I'd really rather, at some point, I'd go back to it as just show you a job being plumb and lined. Because if you don't know what it is, it's a relatively simple thing to do, and it's how you get walls plumb and straight, which is pretty important. It's amazing how many times you don't get that on a project.
So when they frame the roof, we don't have to head out a single rafter. And throughout the lower section you'll see some funny wide rafter bands, but we won't have to head a single.
Okay, so I got this is really important. This is good. Could you please explain that one more time?
So before we stood walls, is we go out and detail out after they finish the floor framing, or if we just had a concrete foundation, is we detail out every single door opening, mark the opening, finished opening, rough opening.
So you're snapping out the interior walls or just and the openings in them?
Every interior wall,
Okay.
every door opening, and then we fall back, and as they're starting to get their wall packages together, we come back and snap every single thing that's gonna affect the roof framing, the wall. It's a nice clean slate. Before you have all these braces, and you can't pull big long string lines. So every single cam line, every single up light, you'll see speakers, bath fans, everything that's gonna be up in our framing, is we snap it out so we miss it.
Which is really killer layout. And it's thinking several steps ahead, which is just a really great way to run a job. I'm telling you, these guys have got their stuff together. It's pretty impressive.
That's where roof
So you
framing.
can just take that up with a laser. And also, do you do all your interior walls by nut doublers and your joists? You lay that out when you lay out the floor? When you lay out the floor?
As far as down below.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of guys like to put their walls on doublers, you know, or at
Yeah.
least on a joist.
This one, it was a little different because they're floor trusses.
Right, right.
So most of our major walls
Yeah.
stand on, large beams.
Yeah, yeah.
So we either run perpendicular over the floor joist or try and land one right
But
underneath.
the whole thing is anticipating
Yep.
the next step.
Yep.
And the next step, and maybe 3 or 4 steps beyond, right?
Exactly. So yeah, when you're
So that when the HVAC guy's going, where do I run this duct? You're not going, oh, shit, I guess we should have thought of that before we.
or when the plumber, comes to, drill the toilet, is make sure there's not a joist underneath there because you can't modify a joist. We can't head that out, or a truss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can head out a joist, but you can't head out a truss.
Truss. So the truss, the floor layout, we had to think through all of our plumbing, all of our mechanical. So it's that forward thinking that I think, just comes with experience, but it becomes invaluable.
And you're the guy.
Yeah,
Good job,
I get to
right?
manage all that.
Yeah, and get with whoever's the layout guy and the framer guy and go, okay,
Well,
or is it just you?
I'm the layout guy, and then we have the framing guy. So
Yeah.
I have someone else who, to hold the tape versus hold the
But
stuff.
ultimately, you're not leaving the layout to the framer.
No. I mean, they help tremendously, and
Yeah.
they have done an amazing job
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
But it ultimately is my responsibility.
And Billy and his boys are, that's all they do is bang out framing.
Yep. Yeah, well, it is. They're amazing.
And we used to have, job site giant radio arm saws way back when.
Yep.
Don't see those anymore.
No.
Now chop saws maybe. God, look at these, this beam framing. So what do you, I guess you could set that with Gene, that's easy enough, but.
Yeah, this one, we built scaffolding to slide it out, and we haven't got the floor dollies because, we don't have the luxury to get a machine back here.
How about a venue for a project?
Yep, that's your main collection tank.
Is this outlet
Yeah, just tied in to the
city sewer?
city sewer, so we had to set a sewer junction pump.
Yeah.
In the street.
Okay, so, cause Matt thought this was,
Yeah.
was,
That's rainwater. That's that new requirement that they're making you collect rainwater now.
yeah, he thought that was septic, and I thought, no, man, they wouldn't let you have septic right here, there's no way, man. No way, so you have an ejector pump set up, so what happens, because shit rolls downhill at quarters to a foot.
Okay, I should have said excrement, but really there's only 3 things you need to know about plumbing, and you'll know everything that a plumber needs to know, and really 4. So the first main 3 things you need to know about plumbing is that every plumbing fixture takes water, waste, vent, water, waste, vent. And then the thing you need to know most is that excrement flows downhill at 1/4 inch to a foot. If you don't have that in your waste, 1/4 inch to a foot flow downhill to a existing city sewer, then you have to have an ejector pump. I think we go on a little bit and talk about it here.
You don't have that kind of fall.
We're in elevation, we're 8 feet above sea level. So high tide, you're only 2 feet above.
Yeah, so it's, the sewage goes to a collection vault, or whatever you call it,
Yep.
has a float switch, and it comes out and pumps the
Gives
effluent.
it,
Yeah, so it's got a macerator too,
Yep.
right? A macerator, so it chews it up. That's
Chews
what-
it up.
That's it.
That's not gonna have that job.
What do you do for a living? Oh,
Yep.
what's your dog's name?
Cooper.
Cooper?
Cooper's a seasoned vet.
You're a veterinarian too, I love that. Oh, what's that, is there a deck putting over or is that?
No, we got transom windows above all of this.
So this is a big rake roof. This is,
Big rig.
And what are the, it's gonna be a volume ceiling, obviously. Is it
Yep.
gonna be exposed beams or drywall ceiling?
Drywall
TNT?
with a couple, faux beams.
Huh.
So,
Like
yeah.
box beams or?
Yeah, that was for value engineering. Because at one point it was a full wood ceiling with box beams.
We made box beams for Peter.
Value engineering is a great way to say, how can we make it cheaper?
So give me a chance. Check out that, we made a 2x12 cedar, a U-shaped box, and it really looked like they supported the.
No, we use box beams all the time. Usually Art Mill is the one that makes them for us.
Yeah.
Very good guy.
You can't go wrong with
I just met with Joe this morning, spent a bunch of time with him.
Tom and Joe. So when I started doing this work,
Yeah.
I worked with Ron, with his dad, right?
Okay,
Ron
yeah.
Matthews. And so I would take stuff to be shaped to them, and I mean, they've just always kind of been my gurus, my cabinet and millwork gurus.
Yeah. Well,
And
yeah.
their shop is just unreal. God, I love their shop. Like I said, I'm super jealous, but then the older I get, the less jealous I am of anybody. So is this a pass-through? What is this?
This, another niche for the bathroom.
This is a big shower niche.
Big shower niche.
I think they got the right idea about niches, right? And what are these?
So these
pads.
pads, we've got larger space over here, but we've got our gutter detail, and it called for a solid block. But eventually, lumber-wise, we couldn't find anything that would work and be cost efficient. So we worked with the engineer to come up with basically like a truss detail essentially, and we used instant nailing, so we'd have good proper nailing and nails would punch through.
And that's your blocking.
That's our blocking.
Wow, I love it. And that's blocking for where? Oh, right there.
For this whole, yeah, the gutter detail.
Oh, okay, so it's a recess. It's a block below the recess to carry that gutter.
Yep.
So you like the true wood? I know. My dog does too. My wife thinks he's got pica, which is that thing the dog gets where they'll eat anything, but I don't think so. He just likes to chew.
No, he just, yeah, this guy's, he's dead since he was kind of puppy.
TGIQ 30s. Ah, it's really clean, man. So when are your framers back and forth with the roof?
Once we finish this deck framing out here, then we're gonna get right back on the roof is the plan.
The framers are now out doing the decks.
Yep.
That's why I come here every day.
Right? It's constantly just fun stuff coming on. And
Yeah, you
one
should-
thing, it's not by any means perfect, and, these guys are really experienced, really good framers. They had their layout stick, laid everything out, and they ended up being off by 3/4 of an inch. So, like, even the best framers
Yeah.
can make simple mistakes. So, it's checking those simple things. So, we'd actually stack the roof, so we had to come back in and cut out a top plate and add 3/4 plywood.
Oh. So their elevation was off 3/4.
Their elevation was off 3/4. And with all the height restrictions on the beach, we had to be tight.
Wow. But somebody saw it at some point before it was too late to fix.
Well, it played in as we had all our header heights figured out, and it matched up with our ceiling height, and they were off.
So your windows are just gonna, the ceilings are gonna plane into the windows?
Yep, interior and
Which is a
exterior.
really tough detail. So when you talk about contemporary details, that's a contemporary detail that's
Yep,
a bear to pull off. You have virtually no slot, right?
especially with pocket doors,
Oh, man.
because the head's another 2 or 3 inches taller.
Yeah.
So then
So you
actually,
gotta-
they just started, we're gonna notch out all these beams.
Oh, right here. That's what you're talking about.
Yep,
It is the pocket wall there?
this is, pocket door.
Right there, that knockout. I think I'm focused on it, yeah. And then they started doing it here. There it is. Don't ever get old, Alex, just kill yourself.
No,
Yeah, so detail, they're just like never ending.
yeah.
And they're not gonna stop. I mean, you're just kind of beginning in some ways, you know, not really beginning, you've been into it for a while, but
Oh, but just it's that forward thinking now is,
yeah.
you know, you're thinking 3 steps and 5 steps ahead.
And in a job like this, if you don't,
Oh,
you should not be doing this job.
when we got a really aggressive schedule and an owner that really wants this done as soon as possible, so that's what we're fighting. Yeah, we're fighting. You know, we can't have those delays because we didn't think of something.
That's stress.
Yeah, that's part of the fun. This makes you better at what you do.
Yeah, no, that's good. You're right. Because how do you get better if you're not challenged?
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Definitely, this pushes you.
Yeah, yeah, I'll bet. So to date, Alex, for you,
Yeah.
is this your most complex job?
Probably the last project, we just finished one on Padero. It was another, you know, that one was actually a fast track job. And I here, Hornblue, yeah, told me when I was just starting out, it's you can have, you know, 3 ways. You can either have quality, you can either have speed, or you can have cost. And it's, you know, pick 2.
Yeah, yeah.
So he wanted all 3. You know, he jumped the cost and picked the other 2. So that job was really tough. I think it was a year and 6 months for, I think it was 9,000 square feet, but finished to the nines. And the interior designer, I've never seen anything like it. We finished up the project, turnkey, hand over the keys, and in 5 days, it was fully furnished. You know, you went to open, the client hadn't even been there yet. You go and open a drawer, silverware's there. You go upstairs in the bathroom, his favorite toothpaste is there. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. It was really fun job to be on.
Well, like they say, money talks and bullshit walks. But you know, if you've got the wherewithal and you've got the, you know, the funds to do something like that, why not?
Yeah.
People spend their money on a lot.
Yeah, and have you seen these? They're DTZs. It's basically like a hold down for the deck.
No, no. These here?
Yep.
They're just hanging, are they installed?
No, these guys are installed. They're new detail. I've never seen them before.
Whoa. Now these are called out?
Yep.
That's interesting. I've never seen those before. And they're stainless as well, I guess. They pretty much have to be if they're outside.
Yep.
And they're deck hold down. So they're wow. They're so they go through the ledger and into the rim joist?
Yep.
And they're Titans, is that there?
DTZs
Okay.
with a 6-inch SDS screw.
Pretty cool. It's built to probably withstand some pretty gnarly stuff.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you think about it, this thing could get away with breaking ultimately.
Yeah.
That would
Away
be-
for a month.
Yeah, yeah, true.
And so here's what the finished opening will look like once you get it notched out.
For the pocket.
Yep. And these guys do a really nice job where they don't overcut into the beam.
Yeah, that's clean, man. So, in this, obviously, this LVL is engineered to lose 2.5 inches or whatever.
Oh yeah, it was in the, you know, structural details.
Yeah, which is nice to have that kind of set of plans. It's like where we go, well,
Yeah, can I do this?
yeah, is this okay to do?
And that's where, yeah, Rick being involved there really helped out.
Yeah, and that's what I find too, is it really helps out. The sooner you get the people that are actually gonna do it involved, the better.
Yeah, this is actually one of the few balloon frame walls.
So this thing is, the walls are stood. All the walls are stood.
Yeah.
Once they come in off the deck, and are there ceiling beams? I mean, other than what we see, is everything else vaulted or?
Everything else is vaulted.
Wow, this thing is gonna have some drama.
Yep.
Dramatic. And then, is this a pocket? No. What is this, a chase?
No, it's a chase. There's a little bit of dead space. That'll be the study in there. And then with that clear story window above it.
Up here,
Yeah.
up there.
Up here.
So this gets clear story too?
Pretty much,
West facing,
it all gets clear story.
man, what a fun project. It's really fun. Cooper, you good boy. You good boy. Well, Alex, you are phenomenal. Your project is phenomenal.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate it a lot.
You bet.
Say bye to Alex, class.
See you guys.
Comments, questions? Comments, questions? Anybody?
Definitely a cool project.
Ah, it's unbelievable. I mean, in the frame, if you looked closely at what I was filming, the framing is really clean. I didn't walk around there with a plumb bob or a level or a laser, but you mean the things really flushed out and certainly looked plumb and well tied together. And it's nice to frame with dimension lumber that's larger than 2x4. It's usually straighter and better to work with, makes a better wall. I really like it. So that I didn't see much 2x4 there. A lot of LVLs, tons of beams, but yeah, just an interesting project and well done. And I wanted to, does everyone know what a clear story is? Are there people that don't know what a clear story is? Raise your hand. Catherine doesn't know, Jose, okay. Okay, and I thought that might be the case. So I'm gonna take a second here and show you what a clear story is. Okay, I'm gonna get this just a second, because okay, so
While you're letting us know what the clear story is, don't forget about Bondo,
who said that?
Jose Landeros.
Thank you, Jose. Thank you so much. So you're gonna remind me again, because I want to do clear story first.
I'll remind you again.
Okay, we got this on. We got this. This was a good list, by the way. Good job, everybody. Everybody contributed to that, which is nice for me. Okay, so there's a typical clear story, and especially how you're going to see it there on that particular job is you got a higher wall.
We're losing focus for some reason, Rodney. You're all blurry.
Really? Did that get any better?
No,
It's blurry, huh?
it needs to focus.
Oh, weird.
It's blurry.
There's no focus on this webcam. I mean, so come on, it did this once
Can you
before.
move the camera closer?
Closer, you think? Does
Yeah,
that help?
maybe.
That doesn't help, does it?
I could see it better, but it's still a little bit blurry, but we can see it better. I think.
Can you wave your hand right in front of the camera so that it adjusts the
I've got
autofocus?
better, right? No, John, you are great, man. Thank you for that. Okay, how's that? Better focus?
Mm,
Better focus?
oh, there you go.
Okay. So high wall, right? It's gonna have.
It's better.
Pardon me?
It's better.
Okay, good. So high wall, it's gonna have a shed roof. Gonna have a roof like that, right? So a clear story would be up here, you'd maybe have a beam, and then this would be glass. Rafters up there. So, and actually clear story is spelled can't remember if there's an E in there. I can't remember if there's an E after the R. And there might be. You can check on that for me. But it's not spelled C-L-E-A-R. spelled Clearstory, but there might be an E after the S. And it's a window or glass, typically fixed, not openable. If it was openable, you'd be calling it an awning or a hopper window. But a Clearstory is up from the roof down, and usually on a shed or a raked wall, a high wall on top of a rake or a shed roof. Clearstory.
Yes, there is an E after the R.
There is?
Yes.
Oh, there's an E after this R?
No.
This R,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
That's kind of what I thought. I had to write it in my scribbly longhand.
On the top.
So that's a Clearstory. Anybody have any questions on Clearstory? Clearstory windows, Clearstory glass? And in that job, we saw a whole bunch of hot rake walls. So fairly high ceilings, and then the rake's going to go up. You can see it on the gable end walls, how that, the angle went like that. And you can see all that opening. That's all going to have glass. So it's going to bring sun in, all that, because it faces dead south. It faces the beach, makes it a little bit south and east, but it's going to have south and west exposure like all day long. That thing will be full of light. And now Bondo, who knows what Bondo is? And if you know what Bondo is, unmute yourself and tell us what Bondo is. Nobody?
It's an epoxy filler product.
Okay. It's body filler.
They use it in cars.
But it's catalyzed. Bondo is like it's like Kleenex, right? Kleenex is tissue paper, and Kleenex is a brand of tissue paper, but Kleenex and tissue paper are now synonymous. So Bondo is now synonymous with body filler. Bondo is a brand, so that more than one person makes Bondo. But Bondo, we're going to call it Bondo, is a catalyzed filler. So it usually is kind of white to light pinkish, and it comes in various size containers, but it's got the consistency of of putty, like putty or drywall mud, perhaps. It has a hardener, and you add hardener, mix it up, and that's when it gets pink usually, because the hardener's red and itself is kind of a gray white. Then it goes pink. And depending upon how much harder you put in it, then you can trowel it on surfaces and it dries super hard. So you use it to fill, it's used by carpenters a lot in wood situations to fill divots and cracks and imperfections in wood that's going to be painted. But it's super important when you use Bondo. The problem with Bondo is that there's virtually no hide in a good paint job. Now, what I mean by that is in a stain job, a wood job, you have hide. You can hide imperfections in the grain and in the shadings and colorings of the stain, because it's not going to be homogeneous. You're going to have all the imperfections of the wood and the grains of the wood. Whereas a paint job, a good paint job, even a flat paint job, but if you get into semi-glosses, eggshell semi-glosses, well, eggshells one up from flat, but semi-glosses and then into glosses, there's virtually no hide. So you can't put enough paint on to build up to hide imperfections. So your surface has got to be prepped. It's all in the prep. So by filling with Bondo, that's great. You can make imperfections disappear, but you have to know how to do it. You have to get that, you have to build up the Bondo. You have to do a couple applications and sand it dead smooth and dead flush. So prep is everything in painting. That's all I'm going to say about that. Let's see a little more of this.
I thought masking was everything in paint.
Who told you that?
Painters.
That's like the carpenter telling you that caulk and paint make a carpenter what he ain't. No.
Uh-oh.
No, really, masking is great if you're spraying. Hey, Jimmy. Would you guys, I'm going to pause you for just a second. I'm going to pause me for just a second and find out what's going on. Hi, Jim.
Hi, guys.
Hey, James.
Hey,
Oh, we're getting a 2-for-1 this time,
yeah, two
Yeah,
for
look
one
at that,
special.
man. Look at
huh?
You guys are so lucky. Unbelievable.
I couldn't stay away.
Yeah,
Two sharks.
I got him up at 7:30 asking him who Linda Luber was. Sorry, Linda. I found out who you are, and now I know who you are, and I'll never forget.
I think he just came over to remind you of the closed captioning.
Did he? Oh, no. No, he did. You're right. He didn't. Okay, so we're going to continue on here. I'm going to keep going. We're going to go to.
Don't forget, quiz this week.
Oh, yeah. And I'm supposed to tell you, don't forget, there's a quiz with this week. It's on the book, chapters
7 through 12.
7 through 12.
And
Quiz.
it'll be online. We're still going to have our regular class on Wednesday. So you'll have probably Tuesday through Friday to do it. And you'll have a 3-hour window anytime within those 4 days to get on and be able to take the quiz.
And we're going to do some animation videos on the wall and ceiling framing layout too.
It's an animation.
Yeah, he just got animated. Okay, so.
I had my COVID shot yesterday.
And Jim got his vaccination yesterday. Fantastic.
And so I'm not feeling great today, but not too bad.
Hey, Jim, was it the Safeway brand?
I got the Moderna
At Albertsons?
at Albertsons in Santa Maria.
So is the
Is
Albertson
that
brand.
is that the one everybody's dying from, or?
Let's hope not. No, nobody's dying from any of it.
No.
And then remind me, I want to tell you guys about the people that, well, I might as well, since we're talking about it, and then it's on to RCH4. But I found out today that, and actually, let's see here. Let's get, well, you guys can hear me talk, right? So I found out today that the 3 things that pre-existing conditions that affect the people most that get COVID and die are diabetes, obesity, and high blood pressure. Those are the 3 things. If you have those as existing conditions, there's a good chance if you get COVID, you're going to croak. So I have high blood pressure, and which affects my kidneys. So it's, kidneys and heart. So I've had a heart attack.
Medication affects
I
your
have
kidneys.
I have 1 kidney. So I'm way up there. I need to get vaccinated. What would
Well, I
say?
gave you the
I know,
info.
I haven't called.
Yeah, you got to call them.
I haven't called. Well, did you listen to the in-service? Because Goswami said in about a week they're going to roll it out for us, for City College, and it'll be an announcement.
No, I did not. I was working.
We'll all get
Yeah.
We'll all get
So anyhow, I feel I feel a little weak, but I feel okay. It didn't affect me too much. My wife, she had the same, the Moderna vaccine, and she suffered more the second day from it. So we'll see. We'll see how I do.
Yeah.
I'm doing okay today, though. My arm isn't sore though.
You got the vaccine. You
Yeah.
got the vaccine coursing through your blood.
I don't care. I just wanted to get the vaccine.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
See you, James. Hope you feel better.
Oh, I'm doing okay. I'm doing
Hope you
okay.
guys are doing well.
Yeah, thank you. Bye, Catherine.
He's doing good. He's doing good. You can tell he's smiling.
I'm gonna be a little last week.
Okay, bud.
Yeah, I glued my fingers together with some cyanoacrylate a couple of months ago. Yeah. Doing this mirrored stainless wall. Ah, it was horrible, man.
I'm-
Rodney, we can't see the video.
Yeah.
Oh, You can't see it?
Overhead pour and
No.
not likely that hot tubs.
I thought you were just talking to James more.
You can't see the video?
No, you're not screen sharing.
Okay, really? This is weird. So, all right, escape. Oh, you know what? What's going on here? Shoot, okay. I'm glad somebody told me. Oh, what's going on here? What are you guys seeing now?
The Zoom link.
Okay.
Probably just go up to where the YouTube icon is.
Yeah, yeah. I've got to get rid of the meeting controls. There isn't a YouTube. Well, there's a Hitachi thing. So, are you guys seeing RCH4 now?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm back on for a minute. Now it's gonna put a piece of picture.
Hit the closed captioning, please.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm back on for a minute. Now it's gonna put a piece of picture thing right here. Yeah, I glued my fingers together with some cyanoacrylate a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
Doing this weird stainless wall. Ah, it's horrible, man. Yeah. Yeah, so overhead pour in a pan deck. It's not likely that hot tub's frame is gonna rot out anytime soon.
Nope.
And it's gonna be not quite flush to the deck, a little bit proud.
It's gonna be 18 inches tall.
So, love that.
Such a great framing project. Such a great framing project.
I'm back on for a minute. I want to show you a detail that is odd. You see, we have in these interior walls, there's some single top plate walls, which is interesting. Yeah, it's a single top plate wall. So that's a green wall with a single top plate. I don't necessarily like single.
Yeah, and I think they took the the double top plate off. He told you about that earlier and put in 3/4. They were because their elevation was off. I think that's why. It's a single top.
Walls. I've done it throughout here. But see, these all have double top plates, and the double top plates help tie a perpendicular wall into the wall it's tying to. But what I wanted to show you are these double bottom plates, which is a real anomaly. But it's a double bottom plate because they're going to lose probably 1.5 inches of floor for mortar, a lightweight concrete, and a warm floor. Let's get a warm floor, and I'll tell you about warm floors at some point. Probably briefly describe them. Okay, and they cut this out.
No closed
Underneath
captioning.
the entry cantilever for the deck, for the unit over the garage, and I wanted to show you, they scooped out these LVLs and they sheeted it with the scoop in it, so they'll put a drain in it in the center where it's scooped to carry water, and then they'll plumb the water. I'm not sure where.
And all right, C7. What's on 7?
I can't resist one last shot of this house. And it's the ocean out there, which you can't really tell, but you can tell that they're sitting on the Carpinteria wetlands.
Okay, so let's get out of this for a second. Okay, does anybody have any questions or comments about those videos? Anybody at all?
I thought it was kind of interesting. They were mixing LVLs, LSLs, and glue lamps. They use so many different types, and usually instead of using the LSLs, I just see doubled or tripled LVLs. That's kind of surprising.
Yeah, I think the engineer had a really field day calling out stuff.
I like that drain, the drain when they did it while framing.
Yeah, wasn't that cool?
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That I've never seen done, and that's
No.
probably something I'll mention out when we have something like that.
Yeah, and of course it's got to be anticipated initially in the initial engineering drafting phase, because you've got to have members that are sized big enough so that you can cut that material out and still have them, can do what they need to do, support what they have to support. So it's not one of those things you can go, let's say you got 2x8s or even 2x10s called out for that patio, and you go, oh yeah, I saw this thing, we could taper it down. Well, maybe those 2x10s aren't meant to lose that 1.5 to 2 inches. Maybe you can't do that with them. Whereas an LVL, which is rated stronger, maybe you can do it with an LVL. So
yeah, we see more LVL and engineered lumber, on plans more often now than we used to.
More and more and more, and you're going to just see more and more and more as wood becomes less available, more expensive, and these items are made with scrap wood and glues and fiberglass and stuff like that. And they hold more. They hold more weight. They're rated better. So I think more and more they're going to be called out more and more. I was most impressed with that job and talking to Alex about the layout and about the anticipation and really thinking more than 2 or even 3 steps ahead with the subtrades and in the critical path of the building and who needs to be where and what needs to go when. Because you've got a massive amount of people in sub trades working on a project, especially a project that big, that can really mess each other up if someone isn't pointing them in the right direction and thinking a couple steps ahead. So I thought that was pretty impressive. I think those guys are building houses that complex and those dollar amounts for a good reason. They got a good track record. They do a really good job. I'm very impressed with them. It makes me want to be a much better contractor in every way.
Yeah. Seems like he's really dedicated to that project. He's focused and just always on that.
Yeah. And he's there 40 hours a week minimum, on that project. A lot of projects can't afford, an 8-hour day job super. Go ahead. Somebody chime in there. Anyway, a lot of projects can't justify a job super 8 hours a day. So a job super or project manager's got to come there when he or she can. Or if your contractor's got in-house carpenters, he's maybe got a lead carpenter that's doing things as well as being the job super or project manager. And that's pretty much how I ran my company forever. The jobs weren't big enough. The dollar amounts weren't enough to justify a 40-hour a week just project manager. So to get the job done, I had to do what project management I could do from offsite and when I could stop on the site, and then hopefully have my crews there, which is why for a general contractor, it's, if you can make money having your crew frame in-house, then you've got your crew there while it's being framed so they can supervise the job. And it's just, there's always something that has to be dealt with. Almost always. Some jobs can kind of run themselves. It depends on the scope of the work and how complex they are, but there usually needs to be somebody figuring out this stuff. So I want to go to, I'm going to take us, I'm not going to break again. I'm going to take us to the end. I hope that's okay. And in this format, if you need to use the bathroom or something, you know what to do. So I was going to go back to share screen. But before I share the screen, I wanted to do this. I'm going to show you another little thing on the board. I was going to show you stair layout. I don't think I'm going to have time to do that. I think I'll do it next week. I'll show you what how to use these acorns, and I'll show you about total rise, total run, and then figuring unit rise and unit run, so we can get total rises and total treads. But I don't think I'm going to do that this week. But I did want to just illustrate this clear story, not clear story, this ledger, the ledger detail, because that is a ledger detail, that standoff that I've never seen before, and it makes such good sense. And they've got so many decks around that place, and it's at the ocean, so they've got to really be built to withstand all kinds of stuff. But the ocean salt air, electrolysis, the UVs, it's ultraviolet light. It's really tough on everything outside. But typically, on a house, for a deck, you would hang a ledger. So let's say this is the rim joist doubler. You come down because you want to step down, and on your framing you're going to have decking that's going to bring it up anyway. But you'd have a ledger bolted to the house, and and usually this would be waterproof. You had hopefully something on your framing there, and then bolted into there, and then hopefully maybe machine bolted through there. What they've done is they've put a standoff, an extruded piece of composition material, Trex, as a standoff, and then their ledger. And this is, I guess that probably goes all the way through that standoff. And then they've married the standoff to the ledger, and then they've taken a 6-inch SDS screw and driven that guy into the doubler or whatever they've got to drive it into. But this going along, I know my perspective's bad, is they've got, those things are just blocks, the standoffs, right? So that's open space, and then another standoff, extruded standoff. So water, as it runs down the building, isn't going to get caught on top of this joist. No, we flash over that joist and do all kinds of things, but it seems like there's always rot at this ledger. And by doing this standoff and waterproofing behind it and having this be composite and waterproof, you've really, that deck's probably going to be there long, I'm not going to say forever, but a long, long time. It's a good detail. They've really thought of a lot of really excellent details, and you can't be too careful in your waterproofing. Waterproofing a job, telling water what to do and what not to do, or trying to, is a really important thing. So let's go to escape. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Damn it. Sorry. This is what I want to do. Okay. You notice that these aren't just colors anymore, right? That's me. I couldn't take them just being colors. They had to be pictures. For me, they had to be pictures. It's not that hard to do. Okay, so let's go to test course. I want you to look at some animations. We're going to go to wall framing, wall and ceiling framing. All right, so I'm assuming, wait, did I just make an assumption? I did, didn't I? I'm thinking that you all have been reading the book since Jim is walking you through the book in chapters 7 through 12, and you're going to be quizzed next week. So let's just go through some of these flashcards, if not all of them. On chapter 11, which is wall and ceiling framing. So advanced framing. Anybody want to unmute themselves and say what advanced framing is? No? Okay, well, let's see what it is. It's a framing system that conserves natural resources while optimizing structural performance. Now, I haven't seen that in the book. Really, I haven't looked for it. So these flashcards may not be doing you a lot of good when it comes to me explaining them. But I do know that there's a lot of talk about green framing, and that job is not green framed by any stretch. Okay, next. Ceiling frame. Well, a ceiling frame should be the ceiling joist that rests on wall plates and maybe girders or midspan beams or headers. The system's support for all components of the ceiling. Okay, you guys all knew that. You guys and gals all knew that, right? A ceiling joist is the individual member, like a floor joist that you stand on, that your ceiling is hung to. Your ceiling being the part that is above your head and not the ceiling joists go pretty much plate to plate. And we're going to see that too. There's an animation showing the joists. How about ceiling joists? It's a main ceiling framing member. A cripple stud is that stud between the header and the plate. The stud used above or below a wall opening extends from the header to the top plate or from the sole plate to the rough sill. So you can have a cripple stud above a header, say a doorway or a window opening, or below a rough sill of a window opening down to the plate. Above or below, but they're portions of full height wall studs. A header. Somebody want to tell us what a header is? I know you all know what a header is. Somebody tell us what a header is.
It's a structural member in a wall over an opening.
Very good, John. It's a horizontal structural member that supports the load over an opening, such as a window or a door, or floor framing member that supports the weight around floor openings. Okay, what's house wrap? Who wants to unmute and answer that? Nobody? Okay, well.
Is that like the Tyvek?
That's
around?
exactly. Who is that?
Brenda.
Yeah, Brenda, that's what we're wrapping these days with is DuPont Tyvek. It's a plastic product, or it's a DuPont product. It's made from I think it's a petroleum product. I'm almost positive, but it's what it does is it keeps water in a liquid form from going in. It will not, when it's properly done and the joints are taped, it will not let liquid water penetrate, but it will let water vapor leave. Okay, that's why it's so great. It allows a house to breathe, and any water vapor or moisture that gets in a wall, it allows the vapor to evaporate and go out, but it doesn't allow rain or liquid water against the house come in. Plastic sheets used to seal exterior walls against air infiltration. Well, also water, but air infiltration. Interesting. I wouldn't have said air, but I'm sure that's in your book. Jack stud. Jack stud is a stud that's used above or below a wall opening and extends from the header to the top plate or from the sole plate to the rough sill. Yeah, it's also a trimmer stud. So we're going to see that in a typical framed opening. You're going to see, I call them trimmers, but you'll see what a jack stud is in one of these animations coming right up. Metal strap bracing, used to help exterior walls resist sideways loads, lateral loads. usually made of 2-inch wide, 18 or 20 gauge galvanized steel. MST straps, the most common called out, and they call them out in 18s, 22s, 12s, 30s, 48s. In the lengths the engineers would like to see them. A nailer is a tool used for driving nails. Okay, I like that. That's a nailer. Look, that's not what I would have
I'm
called it.
having trouble connecting to the internet. Check your Wi-Fi network connection by going to settings.
Hey, nobody's talking to me. I think she said I said Alexa. She thought she heard Alexis, but I didn't say Alexa. A partition is a wall that subdivides a space within any story of a building. A rough opening. Somebody want to define a rough opening for me before I click on it?
Is that like before the window is like installed and the door and the moldings are installed?
Is this Brenda again?
Yes.
Okay, so a rough opening, or commonly known in construction parlance, is the RO, capital R period, capital O period, is the dimension for a window or a door that's the framed opening, which allows for the frame of the window and usually a 1/2 inch of shim space. So typically, say a 3068 door would be framed widthwise. 30 is 36 inches. It would be framed 2 inches over, right? 2 inches over, and that 2 inches would take 2 3/4 jambs, that's 1.5 inches, and leave you a 1/2 inch of shim space in that opening in case the opening's not dead plumb, dead level, dead square, so you can get the door and or window to do that, be dead plumb and dead level and dead square. An opening formed by framing members to receive and support a window or door. Sheathing. Sheathing is the material that you sheet the interior or outside of a building with, floors and roofs. Oops. Boards are prefabricated panels that attach to the exterior studding or rafters of a structure. Okay, that's sheeting. A soffit. Who knows what a soffit is and can describe it? Okay, let's see what they have to say about soffit. Soffit's the underside of the members of a building, such as staircases, cornices, beams, and arches. Also, the enclosure that fills the space between tops of cabinets and the ceiling. Relatively minor in size as compared with ceilings, also called a drop ceiling or a furred down ceiling. Now that might be confusing. And if you want some clarification on soffits, ask me later or at some time and I'll draw one for you, because soffits are used a lot. And actually I filmed one for you. We're going to be using it as a chase. It'll wind up looking like a soffit on that Mangone job that I showed last week. Anyway, if you want to know more, ask me. Make a note. Sole plate, that's what the studs attach to on the bottom, and it attaches to the floor, either the slab or the subfloor. Horizontal member at the bottom of a wall frame. Sole plate is supported by a wood subfloor, concrete slab, or other closed surface. Story pole. Story pole is it's a straight edge, often made from a piece of lumber marked up to check the height of each course of a concrete block. It's also used to lay out and transfer measurements for doors and window openings, siding, shingle courses, and stairways. You can use a story pole for virtually anything, besides more than just these guys. Layout for cabinets, windows and doors, it does say that. Stairways, layout for anything. You put the actual layout on a pole so you can hold it up and see if you've done it right. Strong back. An L-shaped wooden support attached to tops of ceiling post joists to strengthen them, maintain spacing, and bring them to the same level. Structural insulated panel. Panel made of 2 layers of structural sheathing with insulating foam sandwiched between them. A stud is one of a series of vertical structural members and walls and partitions. A top plate is the wall framing member using conventional platform construction at the very top of the wall. Trimmer stud is a jack stud. It's stud, the stud header is framed into it to add strength to the side of the opening, also called a jack stud. And advanced framing is back to 1. So let's go back. So we might, let's see, what's this? Huh, okay. Okay, let's do this. So the stud header is, let's see, okay, advanced framing. Tell me, somebody unmute yourself and tell me which one I should put in advanced framing.
C.
I agree. Do you click on it? I guess you just put C. Okay. Ceiling frame. I'm going to say H. The ceiling joist. I'm going to say F. And if you guys, when I read off the question, any of you want to know the answer and get to it before me, just unmute yourself and say the answer. House wrap. Which one is it? Somebody, come on.
I.
I.
Thank you. What's a partition?
G.
I would totally agree with that. What's a rough opening?
Oh, B.
I would agree with that as well. What's sheathing?
D.
Yeah.
That's going to be the next one down. Is going to be D.
Oh, yeah, because that's
Sheathing
Is
is
G.
I have to scroll down.
Yeah.
G.
Good call, John. What the hell?
Doesn't it? Okay, stud. I'm going to say J.
All framing, yeah.
Top plate.
This is
I'm going to probably
E. What is there's a vertical structure.
E.
let's go to trimmer stud. That's A. The stud header is framed in there. Okay, so Jackson, that's A. Top plate. Okay, what?
E.
B, no.
E. E. As in Eric.
Okay, okay. We haven't used these, so by process of elimination. So let's check our answers. Okay, so
E is
what? Is it?
switch them then.
Those are switched.
Switched, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, okay, okay. So we understand that, hopefully.
Yeah.
I want to recheck. Let's go back.
There's a matching game, see it? Matching activity.
Is that what we're doing? That's a part of the matching game, right?
Right?
The matching game. And I think I'm going to run through some of these animations. I don't have the kind of time I thought I had to demo these things for you. And I really thought these animations were pretty cool things to know about. So let's just, they're all really short. So we're going to look at those. Here we go. Starting with.
Rodney, you have to hit English with the subtitles.
Stud locations are marked on the sole plate and top plate. Begin by marking a pair of corner studs at each end of the plates. Leave a 1.5 inch space between the studs for blocking. Next, mark the regular stud spacing. In this example, regular studs are spaced at 16 inches on center. To locate the first regular stud, measure 15.25 inches from the end of the plate and draw a line. This line represents the near edge of the stud. The mark is made at 15.25 inches so that the center of the stud is 16 inches from the end of the building. Place an X next to the line on the side where the stud will be located. To mark the rest of the regular studs, begin measuring at the mark for the first stud and place a mark every 16 inches. After the locations of the regular studs are marked, locations for window and door openings are marked. Normally, rough openings are identified by their centerline location and width. First, locate the center line of the opening by measuring from the end of the plate. Then, from the center line, measure half of the rough opening width to each side and mark the inner edges of the trimmer studs. Mark any studs needed next to the trimmers. The regular studs located within the rough opening become cripple studs. Identify these by replacing the X marking with a C marking. Stud locations are marked on the sole plate and
This is a real fast one.
in some cases, the upper corners of ceiling joists may extend above the tops of rafters. In this situation, the corner of the ceiling joist must be trimmed to match the top edge of the rafter. Ceiling joists are trimmed before they are installed. To trim ceiling joists, begin by marking the unit run and the unit rise on a framing square. Measure the vertical distance from the bird's mouth to the top of the rafter, and transfer the distance to the end of the joist. Now place the framing square on the joist so the edge of the blade aligns with the mark on the end of the joist. Draw the cut line along the blade. Cut the joist and install.
Nothing to it.
To communicate on the job, you must know the basic terminology used by construction tradespeople when referring to structural wall members. Note the basic parts of a simple wall frame. The sole plate is the lower horizontal member that nails to the subflooring. Wall studs nail between this plate and the top plate. A second top plate nails to the first top plate, producing a double top plate that must support the ceiling and roof frames. A rough opening is a framed area through a wall, commonly needed to accept a window or a door. The rough opening must be wide enough to accept the door frame or window. A header, also called a lintel, is a heavy beam framed above a rough opening. It must carry the weight of the house above the opening. A sill runs horizontally along the bottom of a window opening. Cripples are shorter studs above and below a wall opening. Wall trimmers run along the sides of an opening for increased frame stiffness and to help bear the weight of the header. Begin wall construction by cutting the top and bottom plates to length. The layout on the subfloor provides a template for measuring the needed plate dimensions. For each wall section, cut 2 plates the same size. Measure and mark the center line of all windows and doors on both plates. Write the abbreviation for center line and label the opening for reference. Measure out 1/2 the width of the rough opening on each side of this center line mark to establish the location of the trimmers. The house plans detail the size and location of rough openings. Measurements are typically taken from corners or intersecting partitions to the center lines of the openings. Mark the plates for trimmer studs with a T outside of these points. Include X marks for full-length studs next to the trimmer studs on the side away from the rough opening. Wall stud locations, usually 16-inch on center, can then be marked along the plates with your tape measure. By marking both plates at the same time, The top and bottom of the studs will align vertically. Use your square to draw perpendicular lines to denote where each stud or cripple should be aligned. Lay the top plate and sole plate in relative positions on the subfloor. Turn both plates on edge with the layout marks inward, crown up. Place the studs, crown up, at each position marked on the wall plates. Align the end of a stud with the appropriate line on the plate. Drive 3 framing nails through the plate and into the end of the stud. Repeat this on all other full studs. Then align and nail the other ends of the studs to the other wall plate. Next, frame any windows or doors in the wall. The heights of the rough openings are given in elevation and section views in the house plans. Opening sizes can be found in the plan view or may be listed in the window schedule. Most house plans stipulate the top of the windows and doors at the same height. This allows you to cut all of the upper cripples to the same length to speed production. Headers are often made by nailing heavy framing members together and placing the beam in the wall on edge. Some carpenters nail 2-bys to the top and bottom of the header to bring the header flush for nailing wall covering material around the header. Header length can be determined by adding 3 inches, actual thickness of 2 studs, to the size of the rough opening.
Well, I didn't quite get through all this. Let's just, because I want to get you guys out of here at 12. You guys are all expecting it out of here at 12, right?
Yeah.
That would be nice.
Yeah, we're doing good. We got about 2 minutes. So I want anybody that wants to chime in, please, and tell me what they thought, if anything. And I gotta get this gallery view off of here somehow. Dang it.
Well, you said you were going to talk about the soffit.
Okay. So let's see if I can, I got to get myself pinned here somehow. I got to find myself. And then when I find myself, I can pin myself. There I am. Okay. There's a pin. So here's a way that I think people can really relate to a soffit is that you see soffits a lot in homes. Their cabinets finish at a soffit that goes from the ceiling down to the tops of the cabinets. And just for your information, typical cabinets are 30 inches for the bases, sit on a 4.5-inch kick with an 1.5 inch top. That's 36, 18 inches of space, and then a 30-inch upper. That finishes at 84. Ceilings are 8 feet. So because the ideal cabinet upper is 30 inches, 18 inches off a 36-inch deck, and it's an 8-foot ceiling. And the cabinets finish a foot from the ceiling right? 4.5 inches of kick, 30 inches of cabinet, base cabinet, 1.5 inches of countertop, 18 inches of space, 30 inches of upper. All that adds up to 84 inches. 7 feet. And an 8-foot ceiling, we usually build a soffit. And that soffit can be out far enough to catch a crown molding. It can be almost flush, slightly proud. It can be out far enough to have lights in it. It can be out far enough so some can lights can wash the face. It can have a duct in it. It can have gas. It can have electrical. It can chase things, you know, because that soffit's running through there. So soffits typically, not typically, a soffit comes down from the ceiling. So rather than have the wall go like that, ceiling up here, a soffit would be framed, and usually to chase things or for cabinets to die, or a lighting soffit. There's all kinds of reasons to do soffits, but they're from the ceiling down. And they go that way.
So if you have space above your cabinets, that you can put like decor and stuff, that wouldn't be considered a soffit?
No, that would just be considered space above your cabinets.
Okay.
These days, you know, we don't do cabinets all that much, and we don't do soffits in kitchens all that much. If it's a 7-foot cabinet, we put a crown molding and maybe a deck on it, and then leave that space. Or just box it out and create a cabinet soffit. But now people like a lot of people like full height cabinets, go all the way to the ceiling with the crown molding, and then some people like, especially in some of the older houses like my house, which has an 8'4" ceiling, finish the cabinets. Well, my cabinets go all the way, but in ceilings over 8 feet, it's pretty easy to finish the cabinets at 7, have a crown molding, and then have that space show above. So yes, you could put a basket, you know, plants up there, objects to art, pottery, stuff like that. People do that on top of cabinets as well, you know, or galley rails, all kinds of stuff. So we're a couple minutes after 12. Any other questions for me? Anybody have any questions? Any questions at all? Next week, I'm going to try to, well, I'm going to show you this little demo, and I'm not sure what I'm going to film, but I think I'm going to try to get some electrical component in here. And I'd like to interview Rich McCoy and show you some electrical stuff. And anyway, we'll have some fun on Saturday. I hope it's been fun for you. It's just been a blast for me. I'm glad to see you all and everybody here, and hope to see you all next week. And Linda, I'm sorry about the captioning problems, and hopefully we can get better at it for you and interview people without masks and have the distance so they don't need to wear masks so you can hear better. And okay, I'm waiting for anybody that wants to talk.
No
Anybody want to
worries.
talk?
Thank you. Thank you. No worries.
Hey, Rodney, are we gonna have an in-class session anytime soon?
I'm working on that. So I would like to have that, Aurelio. I'd like to have that. I gotta figure out how to bring the people that can't come to the same class, because I think we'll have some of it outside. But I'm working on it. So yes, I just can't tell you exactly when. Not next week, and maybe not the next, but perhaps after that.
All right.
Figure something out. Yeah, and you'll
Sounds
be able
good.
to come, right? And I'll poll the class at some point and find out. I'll send out an email and ask people who'd be willing to come, who wants to come, who can come, who can't come. It's to be totally up to you until these restrictions are lifted from us.
Sounds good.
Anybody else? I don't know why I can't get this thing to do what I want it to do. I want it to do gallery view. What is wrong with this? Huh? Oh well, I can't seem to get you guys all filled up. I still got Jose's face. Dennis is driving. So no more questions. Hey, well, I'm glad you all made it. I'm really glad to see all of you, and I will see all of you next Saturday. And don't forget Jim's quiz. Jim's quiz next Wednesday.
All right.
Chapters from your books. Okay.
Rodney,
Yes.
You were having all those things of interviews. And remember I told you about asking people about what type of person they're looking for. I was on an interview one time, man, and I asked the guy, I was talking to him, you know, and I said, well, I said, you know, I said, I got a strong back, but a weak mind. Because he had told me, he says, I like people with strong backs with weak minds, right? And I'm all like trying to figure out what to answer back. But I asked him why, you know, he goes, it's my job to make you have a strong mind and a weak back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He goes, that's passing. He goes, what it's called passing on knowledge.
Yeah, it's easier to train them than to break them of their old habits and retrain them.
That's good. No, that's good. I like, well, that's always the position we had, is that we would really, we being the company that I ran for decades, would rather have someone knowing less than more, because the less they know, the more we can fill up their head with the way we want them to do it. Because everybody's got ways of doing things. You know, framing, for instance, like layout is done differently by different guys. Cabinet making, you know, like my background's cabinet making. We advocate for loose kicks. We do not like integral kicks, and some guys build integral kicks into their casework. We build them all loose. So we'd rather not get a guy who's been working in a cabinet shop and learn cabinet making one way. We got to unlearn him. When he wants to go, well, no, what about this way? And the other thing is I'm totally willing to hear about another way to do something. I may or may not adopt it. I may or may not like it. But I hate to be guilty of contempt prior investigation. It kills innovation. You know what I mean? It kills new things. So
Open-minded.
Yeah, you know, I used to work with a guy because I used to work for a government. I was a heavy equipment mechanic, and I used to fix all kinds of stuff. And I'd see this guy, and I was always telling him, man, how come you don't buy all the latest and greatest tools? He says, because I learned from the old school, you know. He says, you see that big old $600 breaker bar you have over there? You know, and I used to watch him, and he didn't have none of the up-to-date tools. He was just old school to the end, you know what I mean? But let me tell you, he outworked everybody because of his old school knowledge. You know what I mean? And here we are getting these breaker bars that costing $600 to $1,000 at Snap-on selling and everything, and you're all like, whoa, look what I got, you know? But let me tell you, man, his ideas were 20 times easier than the route that I used to take. Finally, man, I just hooked up next to this guy, got onto his coattail, man. It made my job so much easier as time went on.
There's no substitute for experience. I mean, none. You know, you can learn all kinds of stuff, and you can hear all kinds of stuff, and you can learn from people that to actually do and to be on the job site and to take direction from, you know, it's kind of like what I'm hoping I'm able to pass on to the people that are willing or interested in getting it, or just some stuff that you just can't find in books. You know, you know, like that thing, you're not going to find anywhere in a book that layout to carve out a cantilever joist that hold a cantilever entry deck to get a center drain. You know, your standard wisdom is going to be that, well, your tile guys or your exterior guys do that, and they're going to need to float to a drain. Whereas this makes, you know, this you could do Dexatex. You could put, you know, 1/16 of an inch of material on that thing. It would slope to drain. You'd be done. You wouldn't have to do all that tile and float. Who knows what they're going to put on there? But my point is that there's no substitute for experience. You just pick up stuff by doing, and that's why on an entry level job, I think the most important thing you can bring to an interview is a good attitude, an attitude of a can do, what do I do now, boss? I'm ready to work attitude.
Be
and all
assertive.
those other things.
Always let people know that you're willing to learn.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And by that,
You're trainable.
always ask questions. You know what I mean? Always ask questions. You know, because then it shows that you want to, you're interested, you have that assertiveness of you moving up in the ranks instead of just, you know what, I started 20 years ago in this company pushing a broom, and guess what? I'm 20 years later, I'm still pushing a broom. You know what I mean? Because I never asked a question on how to. But when you talk to people and you try to gain their knowledge. You know, eventually the right person you start talking to starts saying, hey, you know what I mean? This person right here, maybe you ought to give them a shot of doing something, you know, because everybody has to start on the bottom or else they won't call it entry level.
That's right.
You know, but it's how you take your knowledge and put it together, you know what I mean? Because everybody, you put together an arsenal, man. You know what I mean? It's you put together a package of you. Now you're presenting a package 2 jobs down the line. Now you got a package that you're delivering to a company 3 jobs down the line. You know what I mean? It's just you get more and more once you get knowledgeable, you know. But sometimes there's those people who come in, just like you said, they've been working in one spot too long and you don't want them, you know, because they don't want to learn. You know, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, you know what I mean? But you really can if you're willing to learn.
Yeah, attitude. If you got an attitude, and if you are aware of and are practicing the if you're practicing the 4 agreements, you know, you're doing pretty good. You're not assuming, you know, and you're taking responsibility for your own actions, which is all I'd ever wanted anybody to do is work for me, is just take responsibility for their own actions.
Every time I hear you say assume, I had a boss, man. She was the best boss I ever had. She hated that word. And I go, why do you hate that word? She goes, because the first word in assume is ass. So
yeah. Well, she goes, something about putting an ass between
side of yourself.
You and me.
Yeah.
Putting you between an ass and me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You and me.
Between an ass and me. So yeah, assuming is, but we all do it, you know, but it's, you know, you can't, I don't believe anyone can change without the willingness to change. And then you got to take the action, right? Because here's one thing I'm convinced of, and this is how I live my life. I can't change you. I can't change anything about you. I basically have no control over anything in my life to change. I can't change anything. What I can do is I can change myself, and I can change myself. I have the ability to change myself, but it's not that easy. But I can't think my way into a new way of acting, but I can act my way into a new way of thinking. So it takes actions. You know, you got to have the willingness and you got to take the actions to make the change. But I think we can all do it, by George. And I am going to pause recording. I'm going to stop